It's Tuesday, June 5. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. The Customs Brokers and Freight Forwarders Association of Jamaica says its members are still experiencing problems with the cargo clearance system at Jamaica Customs. The Jamaica Customs Agency's ASYCUDA system stopped working on Friday, resulting in a pileup of goods at the island's ports. The Customs Brokers and Freight Forwarders Association of Jamaica said the system was restored on Saturday, and Jamaica Customs extended opening hours to facilitate processing of shipments. However, Mitzi Gordon Burke Green, president of the Customs Brokers and Freight Forwarders Association of Jamaica, says members are still experiencing issues. She said the association is waiting to see how soon the problem could be solved because customers are incurring several charges due to the delays. The multi-billion-dollar Mandela Highway improvement project is in limbo as scores of workers employed by China Harbour Engineering Company, CHEC, the contractor for the project, remained off the job yesterday. More than 100 Jamaican workers involved in the project walked off the job on Friday, expressing great dissatisfaction with their working conditions. The Jamaicans have alleged that they do not receive pay slips, are not paid for overtime work, and are not allowed sick leave. Further, they say they are not provided with protective gear. Questions are being raised about the impact of the strike action on the timeline given for the completion of the Mandela Highway project. The work is expected to be completed in August this year. The Students' Loan Bureau has extended the deadline for applications for the 2018-2019 academic year by 2 weeks. New and returning students now have until June 15, 2018 to submit an application form or status report forms. The SLB says no payment is required to access the forms at this time. However, a late fee will be applied to applications submitted after the cutoff period. New students will be charged $6,000 and returning students will have to pay $5,950. The trial of popular entertainer Tomley Sparta on lottery scamming-related charges was yesterday adjourned for the 6th time. The latest postponement came after Ernest Smith, the attorney for Tomley Sparta, and his co-accused O'Brien Smith indicated through another lawyer that he was engaged in another trial in St. Elizabeth. Justice Chester Stamp, who presided over the case, was not amused. The trial is now set for November 14. Tomley Sparta, whose real name is Leroy Russell, was first placed before the court on 2016 for breaches of the so-called lottery scamming legislation. In regional news, Venezuelan Foreign Minister George Ariza accused the United States of violating international law. This after the United States on Monday called for members of the Organization of American States, the OAS, to suspend Venezuela from the group and ramp up pressure on President Nicolas Maduro's government with new sanctions.
Vice President Pence challenged member states last month to do what the Democratic Charter asks of us when faced with an unconstitutional interruption in democratic order of a member state: suspend Venezuela from this body. That suspension is not a goal unto itself, but it would show that OAS backs up its words with action, and it would send a powerful signal to the Maduro regime. Only real elections will allow your government to be included in the family of nations. In addition to suspension, I call on fellow member states to apply additional pressure on the Maduro regime, including sanctions and further diplomatic isolation, until such time as it undertakes the actions necessary to return genuine democracy and provide people desperately needed access to international humanitarian aid.
Mr. Maduro won re-election last month in a vote that the Venezuelan opposition, along with the United States and other Latin American nations, have decried as a sham. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo told the 34-member OAS's General Assembly in Washington that suspension from the OAS would send a powerful signal to the Maduro regime. Trinidad and Tobago's Labour Minister Jennifer Baptiste Primos has pledged to enact a law that outlaws sexual harassment in the workplace. She recently recently hosted a consultation to draft a workplace policy on the matter. However, she cited a lack of evidence on harassment in the workplace as a stumbling block to crafting such a policy in the Twin Island Republic. We get more in this report from TV6 News.
Internationally programmed, the Me Too movement, which was chosen as the Times Person of the Year 2017. Regionally, the Life in Leggings movement grew rapidly throughout the Caribbean. Locally, we have had several issues on the forefront with high-ranking persons in this society.
At that point, the minister could have named an example close to home, her former cabinet colleague Darrell Smith. He was accused of making unwanted advances toward his personal assistant. He's denied those claims. That controversy highlighted the absence of a national policy on workplace sexual harassment. Minister Baptiste Primer says such a policy will protect women and men from being targeted in what should be a safe space. She hopes that policy will evolve to fill a gaping hole in our law books.
No standalone legislation currently exists in Trinidad and Tobago to specifically treat with sexual harassment in the workplace. Matters so far brought before our courts are determined using case law, our constitution, ILO conventions, sections and clauses of existing laws.
The minister recalls the first draft bill was laid 27 years ago in 1996, but gathered dust thereafter. In the meantime, Belize, Barbados and Jamaica surged ahead of TNT, passing specific laws targeting sexual harassment. But even in its early stages, what goes into the policy is already up for debate. At Friday's consultation, speakers said precedent worldwide is for the definition of sexual harassment to be broad. That way, different types of behavior can be covered. Could too much breadth backfire?
If you were to call a woman a mule, but some of you are very young, you probably don't know what a mule is. Calling a woman a mule who is barren, that could be significant, and a significant insult, at least in my mother's time and even our time, as someone who can't bear children. That has to do with your gender and your sex, but it's not sexual. So we need to really understand what it is we're really trying to protect.
A lot of the women and men who do not report their sexual harassment say that there's not enough specificity in the definition. Specifically, the word unwelcomed leaves a lot of room for interpretation.
The ministry says it wants to take a diversity of opinions on board before finalizing the national policy.
The decision on Friday by Prime Minister Mia Mottley to suspend Barbados' foreign commercial debt payments has resulted in an immediate ratings cut for the island, with its creditworthiness being slashed to poor compared to its regional neighbors. The devastating commentary has come from regional rating agency CARIS, which dropped the island to its worst rating so far, just 24 hours after Mottley announced she was going to the International Monetary Fund and would restructure the country's staggering debt.
I announced today that we will seek the cooperation of our domestic and external creditors in the restructuring of our public debt. From today, we are suspending payments due on debts owed to external commercial creditors. Similarly, we will endeavor to make scheduled domestic interest payments. However, domestic creditors will be asked to roll over principal maturities until we reach a restructuring agreement. The truth is, our debt has been unsustainable territory for some time.
But while the Barbados Labour Party leader, who came to the office a week ago with an unprecedented 30-0 election blowout, has received the backing of the social partners, CARIS is not so impressed with the move. The Port of Spain-based rating agency has put Barbados on rating watch. It dropped Barbados' rating to CARIS C in the foreign currency rating and CARIS C local currency rating on our regional rating scale. In sports, Jamaica's national senior team coach Theodore Tapper Whitmore has called up 21 players to a 4-day training camp to be held from yesterday through to Thursday. The camp will be held at the University of the West Indies Jamaica Football Federation Captain Horace Burrell Center of Excellence. The Jamaicans are making preparation to play their first game against the Cayman Islands on September 9, 2018 in Jamaica. And Coach Whitmore expressed the need to bring players together to establish training regimes with all the players. The CONCACAF Nations League qualifying phase consists of 34 nations and will take place during FIFA match windows of September, October and November 2018 and March 2019. And that's the news. Do stay with us. The weather report is next. This is PBCJ's weather report. Thanks so much for staying with us. Let's start as usual with our local currents. We'll take a look at what's happening in Kingston. Right now, we're seeing a temperature just between 25 and 29 degrees Celsius with a forecast of some cloudy conditions so far today. We're looking at sunset at 6:33 p.m. and the temperature is set to go down to just about 23 degrees Celsius. Let's take a look at what could be happening over the next 7 days. In Kingston, over the next 7 days, we're looking at a 30% chance of rainfall going into the weekend. We're also seeing temperatures between 23 and 31 degrees Celsius. Should be sunny skies between today and tomorrow. Over there in Montego Bay, St. James, today temperatures between 23 and 29 degrees Celsius. We're looking at sunny skies, but you could be getting some rainfall over there in St. James this evening, and the temperature is set to go down to a cool 14 degrees Celsius. Let's take a look at what could be happening for the rest of the week going into next week. We're looking at a possibility of rainfall for tomorrow. We're seeing a forecast 30% chance of rainfall, and on Thursday 70% chance of rainfall. But we could be getting some warm temperatures throughout the week. We're seeing temperatures between 23 and 31 degrees Celsius for Montego Bay, St. James. Let's take a look at what's happening across the island for today. Across the island, warm temperatures between 29 and 34 degrees Celsius. Some cloudy conditions in the hilly inland areas. We're looking at warm temperatures over there in Black River. Forecast 34 degrees Celsius. We could be getting some rainfall over there in Negril, and it's pretty cloudy over there in St. Thomas. In our forecast for tomorrow, continued warm temperatures between 29 and 33 degrees Celsius. We're looking at a possibility of rainfall over there in Port Antonio, Montego Bay and Negril, but it should be predominantly sunny across the island for tomorrow. In our forecast for the Caribbean, for those of you who are traveling to other islands, we're looking at temperatures between 29 and 34 degrees Celsius. Rainfall is expected in the western end of the Caribbean. Cloudy conditions forecast for the eastern end. And further afield, we're looking at the United States. On your screen, you should be seeing Los Angeles, Miami, New York, and Atlanta. We're seeing a minimum temperature of 14 degrees Celsius for those areas with a high 37 degrees Celsius. It's going to be pretty warm out over there in Los Angeles. You should look out for some rainfall over there in Miami. Sunny skies forecast for New York and Atlanta. And that's it for the weather report. Thanks so much for making it PBCJ. Remember, we are the People's Station.